Welcome everyone to yet another episode of Trifantry Chronicles. This year's theme, as you know, is fitness, finance, and future. I have a very perfectly balanced guest for today's show, Isha Rani. Isha is leading engineering at Microsoft. She is based out of Hyderabad. We connected over LinkedIn. I really love her content, the kind of information that she gives out to, especially to young people looking to break into engineering, product, tech, and you should definitely go and follow her on LinkedIn. She has over 70,000 followership. That means something. So, welcome to the show, Isha. Thank you for taking out time and enlightening the audience.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on your podcast, Nishant.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. So let's before we go down deeper into fitness, finance, and future, I'd like to listen from you, your background. Where do you hail from? How was your childhood? Were you always a nerdy girl? Now that you're leading engineering at Microsoft, tell us about your childhood.
Okay, so I come from Uttarakhand. It's a very small place in Uttarakhand. I belong to that place, and being nerdy, I think I won't call myself nerdy, but yeah, I was studious. I love to study. I was always a topper, and I always had that goal that I want to. I didn't have a goal of being an engineer until I was in, I think, eighth ninth grade. But then definitely had a goal to do best in my life. Whatever I'm doing, do best. That goal I always had in my life. So I don't call myself nerdy, but yeah, I was studious.
And so you did all your education in Uttarakhand.
Yes.
I mean, schooling. Where did you go to college and any post graduation after that?
My all schooling happened in Uttarakhand. So I studied in the government school. It was a Hindi medium school. So all my schooling happened from the government school initially. My BTech, it was from, there's a Govind Ballabh Pant University in Pantnagar. So Pantnagar is a very small township in Uttarakhand, but it's a very nice place, very green place there. If you know about the Green Revolution, it started from there only. And the name of Govind Ballabh Pant, this university, right? So I did my BTech from there. Uh, Post graduation I didn't do.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, the point to be noted here is anyone who's watching today, especially youngsters, is that while obviously it's always good to have amazing credentials in terms of universities and colleges and schools and all, but I think at the end of the day, it's your knowledge and practical, actionable insights that matter and experiences that matter, not just your university or the name of the school or the brand, right? So I think you give hope to so many men, women, girls, everyone.
No, so I always ensure that people are not taking it in the wrong way.
Hmm.
People take it in a way, oh, it doesn't matter. Your credentials don't matter. So how? So it's okay not to study. It's not like that. Your credentials matter in early career. It matters a lot. Uh, you studied from which college? What exactly was your stream you have taken? Engineering, have you done BCA, have you done BSc, what you have done, right? And then from where you have done, how much marks you scored there, it all definitely matters in early career, right? So not take it in a way that okay, it doesn't matter, so it's okay if we don't study. So definitely it matters. And that attitude, that mindset of excelling aspects, when you're studying, when you are doing a job, when you're starting a job, switching a job, right? That matters a lot. But yes, you are right. After a certain time, it's more about how much you have learned, how many skills you have got. Are you upskilling consistently or not? Are you hardworking or not? Are you an efficient worker or not? How smartly you are working, and how you are maintaining a balance between your smart work and the hard work, right? So all that matters a lot after a certain time. But initially, if you think about, yes, it matters. Today also, there are companies who definitely look into from where you have done the engineering, how many marks you have scored, and there are companies who actually look for the throughout 60%. Still, there are companies like that, right? So it matters a lot. So people should know when you are early in career, that is the only thing which will help you. So if you want to kickstart in your career, definitely focus on your studies. Don't take it lightly. And you are in your first job, second job, do a lot of hard work. Yourself to be smarter. But yeah, uh, after a certain time it will be more about how you are growing yourself up.
Hmm. Very valid point. I think what is important, not just in your career, like we talk about this all the time, right? In fitness, finance, future, anything that you're trying to build, you have to sort of plan it out. It just does not happen by luck. You need to keep at it. Some years would be good, some years would be not so good. But when you keep upskilling, keep adding to your experiences as well as degrees, I think that goes a long way.
Yes.
Probably also your risk taking abilities, the way you approach your job or any particular profile, I think that goes a long way in kind of becoming successful.
Oh, definitely. So you either you have to have risk appetite. So some people by have risk appetite, either because of the background they have, or they can be different reasons why someone has risk appetite. But if you don't have, then you have to work on that. You have
Correct.
to your risk appetite. You
Mm,
have
mm,
when do you want to switch? Whether you want
mm,
to switch or not. What will be the impact of that? What
mm,
are the conditions? If you switch, will you be able to maintain work life balance or not? And are you in a situation to compromise that or not? Or for
mm,
that matters more for you. But
mm,
personal situation, you should definitely figure out what is your risk appetite currently, and
mm,
what is the risk appetite you want to, and
mm,
you should design your career.
mm,
Because if you're not taking risk, you are not learning at all.
mm,
You won't grow. After a certain time, you'll become obsolete. You would be asked to leave. You won't get a better opportunity in the.
mm,
You won't be able to switch. There would be multiple challenges if
mm,
you're not upskilling yourself. And so risk appetite is definitely, it's a
mm,
very valid point you have touched upon. Everyone should assess their risk
mm,
appetite and then figure out what is the right risk appetite,
mm, mm.
really, how they can approach towards that.
Right. I also believe that the day and age that we are in today, every company is a tech company as well as maybe a media company. So the technologies as well as the customer consumer behavior is changing dramatically because of these two shifts. And it's so even so more important that you keep upgrading yourself, be at least 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years ahead of the curve so that you are not an obsolete resource which can be replaced. You need to become the integral part of the entire block to be able to hedge your career as well, but at the same time for the love of the process, right? Not just about will I survive or not. Like that is the thought process of a mediocre people. If you want to really progress in life, you want to do something big which at the end of the day which makes you happy, then you probably need to work harder by foreseeing what is going to happen instead of just waiting for some technology, some influencers or some generation to come and say that now I'm obsolete, so they gave me a pink slip and all of that.
Yeah, so you should be loving the journey of
Hmm.
upskilling. Should be loving the way industry is going, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
people who feel fascinated about it, right?
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
no, they don't need any other motivation. They
Hmm.
don't need motivational speaker to motivate them to
Hmm.
learn or to learn something else, right?
Hmm.
They love how we are growing
Hmm.
as a humanity, how we are
Hmm.
growing as a
Hmm.
technology, how we are growing,
Hmm.
and then they love that journey, right?
Hmm.
They that journey, and by default they become part of that journey.
Hmm.
And that we should be part of that journey, you should put yourself on the driving seat.
Hmm.
That matters a lot, that
Correct.
you are not just following others, you are on
Hmm.
a seat. You are the one who is leading the change, right?
Hmm.
And that will happen only when you'll accept that yes, I want to upskill.
Hmm.
uh, Maybe some gaps, there may be things which I don't know, there may
Hmm.
be a lot of things happening in around me. So
Hmm.
let's spend some time in identifying those
Hmm.
things and learn that, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that acceptance is the first step,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
I want to upskill or I
Yeah.
have to upskill, or yes,
Correct.
there are gaps, right? And it's very important to enjoy that journey. It's very
Hmm.
important. So for any student, right, someone who
Right.
loves to study, someone who loves to learn, right,
Hmm.
their parents don't have to force them. It's just
Hmm.
exactly the same thing, right? If you love the changes which are happening around
Hmm.
you in technology, you would definitely explore those changes,
Correct.
right? And
Correct.
then by default you'll become part of the journey, and by default one day you'll feel like, okay, let me do something different.
Hmm.
If when you are seeing 10 things happening around you, by default you'll have the 11th idea
Correct.
in your head, that okay, let's try this thing, let me build
Right.
this new thing for others, right? How I can create the impact on this world. If you're learning 10 AI tools,
Hmm.
by default you get 11th idea, that okay, let's build this 11th AI tool
Hmm.
which will help the world, right?
Absolutely.
It's just about loving the
Hmm.
process and then being part of the journey.
Hmm.
That's the first step, and then definitely that will lead you to
Hmm.
be driving seat.
Right. I think education does not need to stop when you graduate of out of a college or a school and all. Most people just think that now that I'm out of college, that's it. I will never learn again. I will never pick up books. But I think that's just the starting point, because let's say most of us have been out of the colleges 15, 20 years before. And if you think that, that engineering degree or that some BTech or biotech degree is relevant today, you're kind of sadly mistaken. You need to be like, uh, at it every year. It's not just that I took a break of 10 years from learning and today I will just pick up some tool and then, start building on it. Even that will not work out. So you probably should look at it from a progressive way.
So there was a time
Hmm.
when everyone around me, I used to see, there was a mindset that, okay, now I'm done with my graduation or I'm done with my post
Hmm.
graduation.
Hmm.
Is now I'll enjoy my life.
Yeah.
And then there was a time I used to see, I mean, all my managers,
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
everyone was having that mindset, okay, I'll work for 10 years and then I'll retire, or I'll work for
Yeah.
20. Everyone had their own milestone, but they had some milestone that, okay, I'll
Hmm.
work many years and then I'll
Hmm.
retire. Or I'll learn for 5, 6 years initially, then I'll
Hmm.
become a manager. And then, it will be more like managing people and
Hmm.
I don't learn, right? But we're not in that era now.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's completely changed. Every single day you are seeing new things
Yeah.
in terms of domains. You
Hmm.
have to learn that. Otherwise, you can't. I loved your point that it should not be for the survival, but that can be a driver for a lot of
Hmm.
people. They are not self motivated,
Hmm.
right? So there are only two models to reward to motivate people, right? Either reward, but if you don't have a motivation of reward, it,
Hmm.
the fear of punishment will motivate you. But whatever
Correct.
motivates you, take that motivation and keep
Hmm.
upskilling. There
Correct.
is no.
Excellent point, Isha. I think moving on to the segment where we are talking about future and which is also very related to what we are currently talking is artificial intelligence, which is doing the rounds everywhere. You pick up a newspaper and every second news is about artificial intelligence. People are only talking about ChatGPTs, Claude, and Copilot, and various other products out there today. Uh, let's start by demystifying artificial intelligence. You are leading engineering, so obviously you are on the driver's seat of driving the change within the organization and probably serving millions of customers also. What does AI mean to a average person who's watching us today, and how can that person start working on learning these artificial intelligence tools out there to be future ready in 2, 3, 5 years, and how they can use it today?
Okay. So when it comes to leveraging AI tools, there are a lot of things available right now, right?
Hmm.
If you use Canva as a content creator, I'm sure you
Yeah,
must have, right?
sure.
It has a lot of AI features. We have ChatGPT, that is the most favorite one. That
Or
has
Copilot.
Copilots. You have Microsoft Copilots. You
Yeah,
have M365 Copilots.
yeah,
Uh, you have Gemini. So
yeah.
everyone comes with their own specialties, and everyone has a different purpose, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
When you learn it is you'll understand that it's all about when to leverage what and how to leverage them,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
from practice, right? So,
Hmm.
for example, content creators, right? They
Hmm.
use a lot of tools to generate their videos. You'll see a lot of artificial intelligence generated videos are coming on Insta,
Yeah.
YouTube. It's flooded with that now, right?
Hmm.
Whether YouTube and Instagram will promote them or not, it's a different thing, right?
Yeah.
Irrespective of that, there is a
Hmm.
lot of opportunity in the
Yeah.
market. So so there are a lot of tools for a
Hmm.
common for content creators. There are a lot of things for project managers. There are a lot of tools
Hmm. Hmm.
for engineering leaders. There are a lot of things for engineers. There are a lot of tools. You
Hmm.
talk about GitHub, right?
Hmm.
If you use the Copilot, you'll see the beauty of it, right?
Hmm.
It will give you the code for you. It will give you the right recommendations. It will give you the right suggestions.
Hmm.
You can do a lot of things very easily, which used to take earlier few hours or maybe few days for
Hmm.
engineering.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's the beauty of it. It's about you have to find the right tool for you for
Hmm.
your, and you have to leverage it to become more efficient, right?
Hmm.
As an engineer, earlier, let's say I'm writing a code in 5 days,
Hmm.
I might do it maybe in 1 day or 2 days, right? uh,
Hmm.
so it's more about how you will become more efficient,
Hmm.
saving your time, and channelizing that time for something else and creating more impact. It's all
Hmm.
about, right? People have a fear that, okay, AI will take our job, right? But I always tell everyone, don't have that fear.
Hmm.
Make your friend, learn from it,
Yeah.
leverage it, and leverage it fully. And
Correct.
one thing, if you don't know from where to start,
Hmm.
okay, any software engineer, any content creator, if you don't know from where to start, just assume that there is AI for whatever you want to do. You want to write down a script for your LinkedIn post, you want to write down a script for your Instagram reel, you want to write down a bootstrap code for any of your problems, you want to review your code, whatever is your day job, just assume there is an AI solution for that. Go to ChatGPT and ask just a normal prompt. I want to do this. Is there an AI tool available for that? Or can you me? 90% of the times you'll get a right answer. The answer would be yes, and then it will
Right.
help you step. You can ask it, you can instruct it, give it an instruction that can you help me step by step? I want to do this. Can you tell me the steps to do this using AI? It will tell you use Gemini for this, use Canva for this. It will give you all the right recommendations,
Right.
right? So just assume that there is an AI to help you and
Mm.
ask AI to help you for
Correct.
all the steps as well, right?
Right.
So assume that it's there and you don't know how AI will help, but then AI can help you on the how part as well. That how
Right.
as an AI, I'll tell you how I can help you. These are the 5 steps you have to do, and
Correct.
these are the AI tools you can work together. You can collaborate with. So for a common man, I think the first step is that let's accept it's a lot of support provided from AI today. It's there to help us. Let's a lot of help is already there. Everyone is helping this world. The whole AI tools are here
Correct.
to help out. Start with that positive notion, then leverage AI to help you.
Okay, okay. I think that really helps. So I'll just list it down once again. So the point is how to get started on AI. You start by asking the questions to AI itself, how to do this, how to do that. It'll list down. It'll also give you resources. So you can go to ChatGPT, you can use Gemini, you can use Copilot, you can use GitHub, you can use Canva, you can use Perplexity and various other tools out there. Assume that there are AI tools already available for most of the problems that you're trying to solve, and you can then go and start taking step by step.
Yeah.
A disclaimer around this should be that some of the
Another,
information, yeah,
yeah, sorry.
some
Another
of
thing,
the information already available on each of these tools may or may not be completely accurate, and that disclaimer they also give. So
yeah,
obviously use your own caution and your understanding. Don't just copy paste things, especially on the critical side of it.
that is where your domain expertise comes into picture.
Yeah.
That's where your human expertise comes into pictures. That is where your soft skills come into picture.
Mm.
That is where your emotional intelligence comes into picture. And that
Correct.
is what I always tell people, that you don't have to be scared of AI. It won't replace human beings in all aspects. It can't. Uh, Human beings have created AI, right? It won't
Yeah,
be
yeah.
AI humans in a complete
Mm.
way.
Mm.
But uh, what exactly will be required from humans is it's very clear.
Mm.
Any the mundane job,
Mm.
anything which is a repeated task, give it to AI. Don't do the boring work.
Right.
Don't something which is not that valuable, right?
Mm.
Give it to AI,
Mm.
and which more valuable,
Mm.
your intelligence is valuable, your soft skills are valuable,
Right.
your domain knowledge is valuable, your expertise is valuable.
Mm.
Leverage that. So
Mm.
boring work, any repeated work, give it to AI, save your time, and
Yeah.
invest to do something meaningful.
Yeah.
I was talking about the prompt engine.
Yeah.
So when you work with any AI tool, right? So there
Yeah.
are two ways you can use it, right? One, as I already said, ask it to help you, right?
Mm.
If you know how to start, from where to start, just your prompt itself should be that can you help me with these things, right?
Right.
Other AI tools who can help me, right? But then second part, which I love this part. I
Mm.
always in my prompt, I always tell ChatGPT that this is what I want to do. Can you give me a prompt for this?
Okay.
And then I tell him when I in my prompt it's like I want to do this. Can you give me a prompt for this?
Yeah.
But before giving me a prompt, while giving me a prompt, ask me 3 questions related to my job, my work,
Oh
whatever I'm.
wow. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for example, I am asking it to give me a script for an Insta reel for
Mm.
leadership,
Sure.
right? And it will because I have asked it to ask me 3 questions, so it will give me a prompt. Along with that, it will ask me, "What do you mean by leadership? Do you want senior leadership? Do you want mid
Mm.
leadership? Do you want early leadership?
Mm.
Or who is your target audience, right?
Mm.
Is it a gender specific audience? Is
Mm.
it a software engineering? Is it a job based audience? Because
Yeah.
leadership is fast, right? So it will keep asking me 3 different questions till the
Mm.
time I'm happy with the prompt.
Oh, super.
Because every time I'm giving it the same instruction that you have to keep asking me 3 questions till the time I'm happy.
Yeah. Super.
right? So whatever you want to get done from AI, just assume it's capable of doing it.
Yeah.
Use it.
This is a beautiful hack. Amazing. All right. So, moving to the next question on enterprise AI. So, when I say enterprise AI, I mean AI tools for companies, B2B companies, or small, medium, large companies. Microsoft is at the helm of the entire action. You guys are one of the largest investors in ChatGPT also, and various other tools, and building your own expertise. How do you see artificial intelligence panning out for enterprises, and how will it change the landscape uh, for individuals going forward in 3 to 5 years from now?
So from Microsoft perspective, if you would notice, right, for enterprise, all most of the solutions are for enterprises,
Yeah,
right? And there is a whole suite of AI products,
yeah,
right? Whatever you talk about Windows, we have Windows Copilot. You talk about Teams, we
yeah,
have Teams Copilot, right?
yeah.
To have AI to
Mm.
assist all your day-to-day jobs, right?
Right.
Um, you want to summarize whatever. Let's say we are having a meeting, and after the podcast, you want to summarize it. Okay, whatever are the three biggest points I want to take away
Mm.
from a podcast, or what is the summary of this podcast, right? You can go to the Copilot, you can tell, and it will summarize it for you, right?
Mm.
There are a lot of actions which you can automate
Mm.
using all these tools which are provided by Microsoft, right? Another thing is, if you look at the security aspect, right?
Mm.
A lot of enterprises are worried, they are scared to adopt
Mm.
uh, AI, right?
Mm.
Because they have concerns with respect to governance,
Yeah.
regulation, misuse of the data, right?
Mm.
So whatever you are doing, so let's say I'm sending you a prompt, and by mistake I have sent some confidential data to you, right?
Mm.
All that can be scanned, and it can be given that, okay, yes, this is not the right thing to share on
Mm.
chat, for example, right?
Mm.
Those kind of security solutions are being built upon.
Mm.
Already they're in production, people are using it, right? So it's Microsoft is playing a huge role
Yeah.
in providing the right AI to the industry, and also securing that AI.
Mm. 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 Understood. Understood. So I think from the perspective of businesses, they should start leveraging AI right off the bat, right? It's not that something later on they'll be acquiring and all. What I've seen is that typically enterprises, especially large enterprises, are very late to the game, and then eventually they try to throw money at the problem to solve it by acquiring companies or letting go people. So it's always good to start off by having a AI division within the organization. Start with a very small team also, if that works, and then try to use the data which is already available with you. Start building out data science teams, start building out data lakes and all of that. Is that the right approach, or how should
Not
smaller
all,
companies or medium companies should start building AI?
not always, right? So when
Okay.
you talk about, for example, I am working on a small problem and I have only two employees, right? I would never recommend to,
Mm.
and two employees doesn't mean that it's a very small company. They might be having good revenue, but then I won't recommend to
Mm.
have a specific data science and AI team for that,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Because so there are a lot of factors here. One, do you really have a data science and AI use case or not? It's very
Mm.
important to understand where to use AI and where not to
Mm.
use.
Mm.
And, if you look at the training part, right?
Mm.
Training is it's a costly affair, right?
Yeah.
If you look at Nvidia, how Nvidia is making so much of money, it's all through
Yeah.
it's very, very expensive, right?
Yeah.
So it's not easy, and
Mm.
also not cheap to get AI in place, right? So
Right.
that aspect of it. And third aspect of it is, if you are if you know that there are companies like Microsoft, Google, who are providing you cheap AI, right? And
Mm.
they, why you do you really, you have to think about it. Do you
Yeah.
really invest that much money in your resourcing, in your
Mm.
people, in
Mm.
your talent, in your
Mm.
intelligence, to come up with that kind of a solution?
Mm. Mm.
And if you'll do that, will you be able to beat Microsoft? Will you be able to beat
Right. Correct.
Google? Won't be able to, right?
Of
So
course.
wise to
Mm. Mm.
invest so much money in that. To me, it looks like first you should assess whether you actually need AI or not. If you
Mm.
need, you need in the AI.
Mm.
Second, whatever you need, can it
Mm.
be done with existing solutions?
Mm.
If not, maybe tomorrow.
Mm.
Because thing which Microsoft can provide you tomorrow, I mean,
Mm.
1 year later, to build that, you'll need maybe 10 years,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So it doesn't make sense to invest that much money and resources
Mm.
and that, right? But having said that,
Mm.
once you are established as a
Mm.
startup, or maybe as a good established company,
Mm.
and making money,
Mm.
and you have a good use case which can help you to make more money,
Mm.
and you have done that, your ROI calculations, that okay, how much you have to invest for how many years, and
Mm.
whether that is available or not. For example, if you think about India, right?
Hmm.
A few years back, we didn't have people, we didn't have that much talent in
Hmm.
India that who will be knowing, who will be
Hmm.
having.
Hmm.
Same thing is with big data. If you
Hmm.
started doing it in 2012, right? It's just 12 years back,
Hmm.
and that just started, right? The 2016, 17 around when it actually started taking a boom, right?
Hmm.
So if you don't have a talent, how you'll do it? So it's very important to be practical. Uh, your point is valid that
Hmm.
a lot of times you feel that okay, you are late in the game,
Hmm.
but uh, it's okay if you are
Hmm.
late in the game, because that is not the battle you want to fight. You can't
Correct.
fight the battles in the business, right?
Correct.
You are in a startup world, you are, or any business you are doing, you don't want to fight all the battles,
Hmm.
right? So think about it. Is AI the battle you want to fight for?
Hmm. Correct. Absolutely. I think this is exactly what I wanted to hear from your perspective, because a lot of people think that any new shiny new toy that comes out in the market, I should be the first one to acquire it. It could be around things or experiences or let's say phones or whatever. So even in organization it happens that that fear of missing out is always there. Arey, this new yes, technology should be there, or this particular employee engagement program should be there in my organization, or a TT table, or whatever XYZ things, or I need to become the greatest place to work with, and all of those things. Every organization goes through those discussions, and hence this was an important
But
point
then
that you got.
I would clarify here.
Hmm.
See, definitely AI is the future.
Yeah.
Two things I'm telling you: social
Hmm.
media,
Hmm.
these two are the future. If you are not on top of it,
Yeah.
you'll either lose the game.
Yeah.
Either today or tomorrow, you'll lose the game. So you
Correct.
have to be on top of your game when it comes to social media, when it comes to AI.
Yeah.
You have it.
Correct.
So I'm not saying that don't don't be on top of AI or don't use AI or don't
Hmm.
leverage it. Don't.
Hmm.
I'm not saying all that. But what I'm
Correct.
saying, uh, how you'll do that, how you'll leverage that, or how you'll build that, there can be a
Yeah.
lot of options for that. And building data science and AI team is not always the
Yeah.
right or
Yeah. Correct. Absolutely. I think it's always a balance between procuring a technology versus building it out. Procuring is always much easier. You can keep changing or all of that, but building again is going to be, like they say, that digital transformation is a project which never ends. Right? Every 5 years, the company needs to go undergo a digital transformation. AI would also be same. In fact, it might be every 6 months, if not 5 years. So it's a double-edged sword as well, as far as the procurement or investments is concerned. So might as well use the infrastructure built by you guys or the FANG companies. So
hmm.
okay, I have a slightly futuristic question. Now, we all watch a lot of Hollywood movies and the future, which is kind of shown, the Tron kind of things, lasers and flying cars and all of that. And the way the hype has been created around artificial intelligence, do you think by 2050 we will have cities which actually look like the futuristic movies like Tron, or we'll have flying cars or stuff like that, or robots in every house?
See, I think it may be an overstatement, but to me
Hmm.
it looks like the hype is already it has already started getting to the reality. To me, it looks
Okay.
so.
Yeah.
If you talk about the Bangalore restaurant I was talking about, right?
Hmm.
It has robots to
Okay.
serve the customers, right? There is
Hmm.
a one in Hyderabad. It has robots, and they
Hmm.
do a very good job, right?
Hmm.
It's a very nice robot in the shape of a human being. They have a
Hmm.
tray. They walk very nicely. They serve to the table,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
If you talk about drones, right?
Hmm.
The flying, so all the drones have the camera, so it's a flying camera. It's already
Absolutely. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So you talk about the cars, right?
Hmm.
Autonomous cars.
Yeah.
We started hearing about them, I think 15, 20 years back, and
Yeah.
now are having slowly and gradually we are having that confidence.
Absolutely.
Now, very soon, I'm not talking
Hmm.
about 2000, very soon it will be a reality, right?
Yeah. That's
So
true.
in India, on India roads, it may
Hmm.
take time. But if
Yeah.
you think about any other country, US, UK, I'm
Yeah.
sure they right. So to me, it looks like it has already started becoming the reality.
Hmm.
Coming back to your point, how we see in the movies,
Hmm.
right? It's just a matter of time.
Hmm.
I think what we should be worried about is I'm not worried about whether AI will become that kind of a reality or not. I'm worried about how we'll make it secure, how
Hmm.
make it ethical,
Hmm.
how we show that it's helping human beings rather
Hmm.
than the other
Right.
way. That is very important to have
Mm.
when you are
Mm.
the AI. It's very important to have focus on explainable AI. You should know if AI has done something, why it has done something, so that if something goes wrong, you know why it went wrong, so that you can
Mm.
correct it, right?
Mm.
It's very important to give ethical
Mm.
feedback to AI, ethical
Mm.
instructions to AI. It's very important to train AI to detect if
Mm.
someone, anyone who is asking it to do anything, anyone who is giving the instruction, is it a right instruction or not? Is it a good?
Mm.
Is it an ethical instruction or not? Right.
Mm.
So those things are very important.
Mm.
Build that mindset, and
Mm.
then whoever is working on AI, they should have the right mindset, right?
Mm.
The collective effort. Everyone is working on AI, right?
Mm.
It's education, that mindset building, that attitude
Mm.
building is much more important than
Mm.
what I do or what AI cannot do,
Mm.
because we are already seeing something which used to seem magical 10 years, 20 years back. That
Right.
is the reality now, right?
Correct.
Amazon has robots to deliver door to door, right?
Yeah. Correct.
So a lot of things are already becoming
Mm.
reality. We know how AI works. It's more like giving it more compute, giving it more data, and now
Mm.
we have data.
Right.
It is capturing so much of data.
Mm.
Every day we are dealing with data.
Mm.
Every mobile has so much of data, right?
Mm. Mm.
There's no lack of data we have right now.
Mm.
So for for making AI big, you need two things
Mm.
majorly: more data and more compute. Both of the things you have today, and
Mm.
we're investing more and more in getting higher compute as well, right?
Right.
Companies like Microsoft, Google, they're also
Mm.
investing in
Mm.
implementing new practices, right?
Mm.
uh, to me, it looks like it's just a matter of time.
Mm.
But then being worried about whether AI will become big or not, or when it will become big, I'm more worried about how we'll make it big and ethical at the same time.
Excellent point. Yeah, I think it's important to have that kill switch in each of the models that you're trying to build. You need to know exactly where and how to shut it down or scale it, and to also build the human values, the ethics, and everything that we are built on, the
Yeah.
constitution, the rights, keeping humans first, honesty, all of these things I think
Yeah.
need to be built into it. Uh, Okay, so last question that comes to my mind while speaking about AI itself is that there are two things. One is learning how to build models, like starting from scratch, for which probably you need a lot of advanced mathematical skills, probabilistic skills, and various other regression and kind of statistics and everything. And second is actually to be able to use the built-in tools and use for your own use cases or productivity. Today, if someone thinks about AI, they feel that, if I don't know how to code, I don't know maths, how I don't know about science and all of that, how do will I completely miss out? Whereas there are already tools out there. This might be very repetitive in nature, but what do you think as an average person, like if they want to really start from scratch, should they be focusing on mathematical and coding and other skills, or should they be focusing on using the available tools out there for advancing their own careers?
Okay. So I would be blunt and honest here.
Mm.
When it comes to building something in machine learning from scratch, right?
Mm.
As I said earlier, also there are
Mm.
a lot of good companies already doing that, right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
if you are part of a good company, a
Mm.
good organization who is funding all those initiatives, because it's very expensive, right?
Yeah.
Then it's okay.
Mm.
We have already learned about statistics, classification algorithms, linear regression, logistic regression, your SPM, your decision trees. You have
Mm.
learned all that, right? If you're working on LLMs, you worked on BERT, and you know what are the pros and cons and the other algorithms, right? So if uh, if you have someone to sponsor all that research, it's more like
Mm.
a,
Right.
then there's nothing wrong in that.
Mm.
The purpose of that is to build something new, to
Yeah.
build like OpenAI from scratch, right? To build
Correct.
something which others can use, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not in that position, right, then definitely it's a better idea to leverage the work which is being done by others
Mm.
and use transfer learning,
Yeah.
right? Use the same model, give it your data, and make
Mm.
it for your use case,
Right.
right? So transfer learning is much more important to
Mm.
learn implement than the working on the models from scratch, because that
Understood.
kind of research work, it's very expensive. Not everyone
Yeah.
can afford that, and also it's not good for everyone as well, right? So
Correct.
well, when you talk about businesses, a lot of use cases are already solved,
Yeah.
right? If I know 3 into 3 is 9,
Mm.
I sit and do plus and 2 figure out that okay whether 3 into 3 is 9
Correct.
or not. So
Ab-
I know that okay this problem is already solved. Then why to solve it? There's no
Correct.
point there, right? So better to be smart and leverage whatever work others have done,
Yeah.
but definitely make it good for your use case, and
Yeah.
that we do with the transfer learning.
Right. Correct. I think well put. This is also something that keeps coming up in all the conversation that I've already missed the bus. I was not good at maths. I was not good at coding. But that's what I keep telling everyone that there's so
Uh,
many
so
tools out there. Just use them.
yes. So if you talk about AI, I think there are a lot of things which are already available,
Hmm.
and it has started. It already started becoming a commodity now.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
not saying that you have missed the bus.
Yeah.
Uh, it is becoming a commodity. You must be knowing how to
Yeah.
use.
Absolutely. In fact, I say this to everyone that in merely $19, you just take premium subscription for one of the tools. It could be any damn tool. There are so
Yeah,
many tools out there from the top 10 companies that are innovating. Just take one tool, $19 a month. You can literally get work done worth lakhs, if not crores. And
yeah,
you will still just be using probably 0.001% capability of that particular tool in $19. That is nothing at all.
yeah. So when you are in doubt, right? When
Mm,
you
mm,
think the right thing to do, just do what crowd is doing, right?
mm,
That's a very common saying in India,
mm,
right?
mm,
Not always, definitely
mm,
not go with the crowd. If you want to do something special, if you want to do something big, right? Definitely you'll have to do something out of the crowd, right?
mm,
You'll have to think out of the box, you'll have to go beyond the crowd.
mm,
But where you feel clueless, you don't know the direction,
mm,
you don't know what to do, just go with the crowd and look
mm,
at what they are doing.
mm.
How these AI companies are making money, because a lot of people are leveraging, right?
Yeah.
Not all those people, I mean all of them won't be fooled, right? They
Yeah.
know that they are leveraging AI rather than building that AI from scratch. So it's very
Absolutely.
clear, right? If it's not a good use, right? if
Mm,
if these AIs are not if they're not good tools, if they're not adding value to the business or any use case, right? Why people will do that? They
mm.
won't repeated order then, right? And these companies won't make money, and these companies are also not fool. They
Yeah.
also invest that much in AI, right? They know that
Correct.
they are adding value, they are getting repetitive customers, and that's why they're investing more and they're adding features to their AI tools, right? So
Absolutely.
if you, to me again, I would say the same thing. I mean,
Mm.
rather than building something from scratch,
Yeah.
think that okay, I am the customer of Google, I'm the customer of Microsoft AI, I'm the customer of Google AI, I'm the customer of any other company who's providing you good AI tools,
Mm,
and they have to serve you, right?
mm.
You're their customer. So imagine, I mean, have that attitude that okay,
Yeah.
they are there. If Google is there to serve you, then why to worry,
Correct.
right?
Absolutely.
So
100%.
and then leverage it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, it was an interesting segment of our conversation. Moving to the second segment of our conversation, which is around finance. Now, finance is an important part of anyone's career as well as life in general. Whatever we are doing, we are actually at the end of the day, we would like to make money and have a comfortable life, grow, travel, all of that. And that is all fueled by finances, right? Nothing moves without money. So, you've built a long and rewarding career. It's been 22 years. You've worked in top tech companies. What have been your investing principles over the last 2.5 decades? How do you see money, and how do you what are the guiding pillars of your investment strategy? Personal wealth.
Okay. So for personal wealth, I have two basic principles.
Hmm.
Definitely, you should be investing more in the instruments which will give you more return, right?
Of course. Hmm.
uh, I mean, obviously, I mean, I won't say anyone to do blindly what I did, because
Hmm.
I did that because it worked for me.
Yeah.
uh, so anyone, they have to assess
Hmm.
how much risk they can take,
Hmm.
their personal situations, think about that and then invest, right?
Hmm.
But for me, I wanted to make good use of money. I wanted my money to grow, so I invested heavily in stocks.
Hmm.
So for me, that was more fruitful.
Sure.
And in stock also, I was investing more in futures and options rather
Okay.
than the, right? So that worked for me.
Hmm.
Uh, so I invested there. So I was very clear that okay, I wanted to take risk.
Hmm.
I took a lot of risk in my career also, and that
Hmm.
worked. That was very rewarding for me.
Hmm.
So same thing I did with my finances as well. I took a lot of risk, and that worked for me. Uh, but that worked out for me because I had that peace of mind that that was a conscious decision. That was a very calculated decision. That yes, I want to take risk, and I was okay. I was prepared to lose as well. That's why I was. I mean, it worked for me. For people, I mean, if their risk appetite is low because of any reason, it may be their family situations, it may be their responsibilities. If they'll follow the same strategy, it may not work for them because they'll panic and they'll cut in the losses, right? So, but for me, it worked out. So my first principle was to invest in the instruments which will give you more return, right? And second basic principle I had was reduce distractions in your life, right? So when I look around me, I everyone around me is owning at least one home, 2 or 3 houses they own, uh, and they have luxury cars and everything. To me, it was a distraction. I mean, I'm not good in property and all, right? I don't know how to find a good builder and all those stuff. It. I mean, whenever I thought of buying a home, I used to think about it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then I realized no, it's very stressful. I mean, so many factors, right?
Right.
Location, builder, the size, ventilation level, so many things, right?
Yeah.
When you think about car again, it's a distraction. So many things you have to think about.
Right.
Uh,
You've
uh,
already reached the level of self-actualization in life. कर लिया है अब सब देख लिया.
no, I don't want distractions in my
Yeah.
life. I was like, no, I don't want to own a car. I don't want to own a house.
Hmm.
Same thing happened. I mean, we thought of buying a TV, and I realized, no, it's too much of stress. I mean, which TV you want to have? And then,
Okay.
but do I really need a TV? No. I mean, if it's causing a distraction, then why to own it, right? So for my finances,
Super.
I worked on spend that okay, I want to spend only which will not cause a distraction tomorrow. It should not become a liability for me tomorrow to maintain and other things. And then when it comes to investment, I would invest which will give more return to me. So that's what I try to do that. Okay, spend on something. I mean, I'm not a fan of shopping. I as a distraction, right? So I think that helped indirectly because you're not spending a lot. You have you're not having that stress that okay,
Yeah.
you have to pay EMIs or you spend all of your salary, so you can't invest in stocks, right? So, but these two were my basic principles that don't spend on something which is causing distraction for you or which is a lot of time taking thing for you. So while spending, you are spending your time, you're wasting your time, and then
Correct.
while paying, you're wasting your time again, right?
Managing
So,
them and
yeah,
maintenance and this and
yeah,
that, all of that. Yeah.
very clear that okay, don't spend time, money on something which is distracting. I wanted to spend all my time and energy in building my career. I was very clear. Waste my time, right? And then second thing was that okay, invest in something which will give you higher returns. So I had these two principles.
Superb. I think this I can draw parallels with your second principle, which is around zeros and ones. It's all or nothing. It's like that. If you let's say I'll give you an example. They say that stopping sugar 100%, like completely removing it from your life, is actually much easier than removing it 95%. Same is the case with quitting smoking or drinking. If you think that let me just have one peg or one smoke or one smeetha or something this week, you will end up catching that habit much more, because then you will be constantly making decisions that no, let me just reward me here, let me just do it here. But stopping it completely, zero, like no, for the next 2 months, zero alcohol, zero smoke, zero this, is much easier than being consistent for 95% of the times.
So there are two parts of it. You actually a very very interesting point. One is what you said that okay, you are constantly into that decision making,
Yeah.
right? And you might be feeling that yes, if you have made your mind that okay, I won't take sugar, I won't take alcohol, you have saved your time from the decision making, right?
Yeah,
So,
correct.
beautiful. But there is another aspect of it which a lot of people don't understand. When you are doing that decision making, it's not time you are wasting. You are wasting two things. You're wasting energy, and the most important thing, you are wasting your willpower. Willpower is a limited resource, right? And based on a lot of factors, your background, your context, where you are today, based on your willpower, right? But we're still very limited, right? Few people have willpower. We say them कि ये तो बहुत हिम्मती है types है ना. People are not having that much willpower. But then whatever is your willpower, it's still limited resource, right?
Mm.
But you are spending that willpower in doing that decision making. You are
Mm.
using your willpower on, oh, matlab, I won't take sugar today. I won't eat
Mm. Mm.
that laddu today. You have wasted your willpower in that decision making.
Mm.
That willpower you might have used to do something meaningful for your career, learning
Mm.
something new, picking some new project, delivering that
Mm.
new project, talking to
Mm.
someone, learn something new about that, right? That willpower, or maybe it's just waking up early. That willpower you might have used to wake up early next day, but you have already used that willpower in the
Mm. Correct.
and that, okay, I don't want that
Yeah.
as right.
Yeah, as they say, on an average, we have willpower or whatever decision making capability for only 10 to 12 big decisions in a day. And this is actually one of those decisions. And then subconsciously, we take like 2,000, 2,500 decisions as this is how we have to sit, this is how we have to look. So these are subconscious decisions. But the
Yeah,
mental power or willpower to take big decisions in a day is only 10 to 12, not more. Where, where you have to think and compute and all of that. So I think,
but
yeah.
having said that,
Hmm.
see, very important to understand
Hmm.
who you are as a person,
Hmm.
what you want in life. For
Hmm.
me, I mean, the kind of background I come from, it
Hmm.
doesn't matter, how do you look, what you are
Hmm.
wearing. Since childhood, I mean, we didn't have that kind of money that, okay, you can spend. I told you, I just
Hmm.
studied, right? So these things didn't matter for me. But then,
Hmm.
if you are a person for whom it matters, what you are wearing, how you are looking, what are
Hmm.
the accessories you are having, right? If it matters for you,
Hmm.
invest in that,
Yeah.
because then it won't work for you if it matters to you
Hmm.
that, okay, you have a circle, and it matters to you that, okay, which car you are driving. If
Hmm.
it matters to you, then invest in a good car, because otherwise you'll get more stress not having
Yeah.
that,
Correct.
and be stuck in that mindset that, okay, what's the use of this much money if I'm not spending on myself?
Hmm.
What's the use of this money if I'm not owning a luxury car,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
It's very important to understand what you are, who
Hmm.
you. If you can change yourself, it's good, but it's
Hmm.
very change yourself, right?
Hmm.
So do what is working out for you. Every
Hmm.
individual is different,
Correct.
right? Every individual is different. Their situations are different.
Hmm.
Their perspectives are different.
Hmm.
Their needs are different.
Hmm.
Think about yourself, what works for you. Don't blindly follow anyone.
Hmm.
Don't follow that, okay, oh, she is not having a home, she's not having a car, so I don't want anything.
Right.
Do it matters. Maybe it matters for your parents. Maybe it matters for your kids.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Correct.
about your own situation, what matters for you, and
Hmm.
then
Correct. I think we are all on an intrinsic journey, but sometimes because of now the positives that we talked about, social media has also the negative, which brings a lot of comparisons in life or feeling of missing out on something, or just being present, or that constant dopamine hit which is there kind of makes you to do things which may or may not be part of your personality, but now because everyone is doing it, so you feel like, oh, I am obligated to do this. So that's also something that our generation from the which has grown up in 15, 20 years of internet has to live with it. This kind of stimuli was not there before 2005. It was probably there in some other form or shape, but now the stimuli is more and more of everything, more food, more clothes, more this. So hence I think it's very difficult for a soul which is not mentally strong, that you were talking about willpower. That's where probably a lot of people give in.
I don't agree to that.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah. Go on.
So one, when I talked about social media, I didn't talk about being a consumer. I talked
Yeah.
about.
Of course.
I didn't mean that, okay, you have to be
Hence here we are.
top of social media. It's not that, okay, the whole day you have to
Yeah.
scroll. No, it meant that you have to be a good creator.
Mm,
How you can add value. You have to think about how you can add value to
mm,
others' life.
mm.
Your expertise can help someone else, right? Think
Yeah.
about that, add value. So that is one part of it.
Correct.
Second part, let's come to the consuming part, right?
Mm,
It's very easy to say that, okay, see, in general, it's easy to have that victim mindset, right? And I can say that, okay, there are a lot of options available. There are a lot of
mm,
a lot of things I'm seeing on my reels, and it's a very cheap dopamine which is available, and I want to leverage that, right? It's very easy to say that.
mm,
But at the same time, when you won't have this victim mindset,
mm,
you'll use social media as your slave. Okay,
mm,
so if you are using it as your slave, what
mm,
you'll do is you'll know that, okay, there is a lot of information available on social media.
mm,
There is a lot of knowledge available.
mm,
There is a lot of motivation available.
mm,
So before, when we didn't have social media, right? If you want to motivate yourself, you need at least one or two good books. Then only you'll get the real motivation, right? Today, what you have to do is assume Instagram is your slave. Go to Instagram, use it as your servant. Tell it that okay, these are my influencers. These are the three influencers I want to watch. Only three, or just figure out 5 or 6 motivational videos. Click them, follow them. That time onwards, you'll have only motivational videos.
Yeah.
And just watch those videos for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, you'll feel like, okay, what I'm doing, I'm just scrolling Instagram. No, no, this is not for me. And you'll leave your phone immediately. Because that's what they are telling you.
Correct.
I'm telling you, you try that out. And in one of the videos, at least you'll find that, okay, you're wasting your time, just leave your phone right now. That's what their job is, right? For motivational speakers. So use it as your slave. We we'll have to take the ownership. We'll have to take the charge. We can't have the victim mindset. We see, if I'll tell 100 times that okay, now I have so much of distraction. YouTube is there, is there. Because of that distraction, I'm not able to do anything in my life. Right? Nothing is going to change even if I'll tell that 100 times. Instagram is not deciding. Meta is not deciding. Oh, I'm spoiling everyone's time, and so let me shut down Meta. Let me shut down Instagram. Right? So the point here is how we leverage these things for our betterment, for our success. It's on. So let's take the ownership. Let's take charge. Let's use these things as our friends. You call it friend, you call it slave, you call it servant, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
But make it work for your success. So observe the good content, consume the right content, which can help you something more meaningful, something learning, something which can motivate you, something which can help you to grow in terms of finance, in terms of tech, whatever, right? So design your feed.
Yeah.
You have to design it, right? So
Yeah.
software engineers are very good in designing softwares, right?
Yeah.
We have UX designers, we have technical designers who will tell that okay, how different backend
Correct.
pieces will each other. So it's very easy for them when it comes to industry people. It's very easy for them to design their feed. It's just that they have to take that control. That okay, I will decide what will come to my feed. I won't let anyone else to decide my future just because I'm having a good dopamine hit. I won't let them do it, or I won't let. So see, earlier I remember I didn't know the concept of late gratification. I didn't know a lot of concepts when it comes to motivation. Today, if you are having the right people whom you are following, you'll understand everything in just 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
It's quick, right?
Correct.
It's on how you're leveraging it.
Absolutely, beautifully put, Isha. I think this just flips the script, which is like make social media your slave and not be a slave to it. That's usually the case, right? Everyone is just cribbing about I can't do this, I can't do that. There is comparison, like I mentioned earlier. But now this is a good way to look at it. That this in fact it's almost like prompt engineering. Probably use AI as your slave or a buddy or a friend or a secretary, whatever works for you. Someone to take notes, someone to help you out. Similarly, you have a 24/7 itinerary, you have a motivational speaker, everything available to you, and just maybe 5 to 10 minutes is what you should be looking at, and not for 5 to 10 hours, which 50 people typically use.
Yeah, and there is a lot of help available on social media.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a boon for us. It's just that on us, whether we make it a boon or a curse, it's on
Correct.
us.
Correct.
Not
Correct.
no
Yeah.
one stop. If you, let's say, if you are a late person, right, and you want to follow a morning routine, right, there are people who have videos set up like okay, have your morning with me or have your morning routine with me. So they will their video and they'll do everything in front of you, right? So you get, even if you don't have a sibling, even if you don't have a cousin, even if you don't have anyone to help you, your parents are busy, you have your buddy there, right?
Correct.
Who is having coffee with you, who is studying with you, who is showing you how to do the right thing in the morning, who is
Correct.
showing you how to do the workout in the morning, when to do the workout, when to take rest, when to do office work, when to check your emails. 5 days you follow them, I'm telling you, it will come to your habit.
Become like that. Yeah, absolutely.
You how you're leveraging all these things.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so one question that comes to my mind, usually with senior business leaders such as yourself, is that a lot of people come to you for mentorship and help and requests and probably investment. So, if you were to become a angel investor sometime, what would be the things that you would look at for a startup to invest or give mentorship? What are those things that you look at before investing in any company, or you would?
3 things generally, I see for any company when I look at them, it's not necessarily for investment perspective only. It's
Yeah.
just that, right?
Helping people. Yeah.
So first thing is definitely what's their vision.
Hmm.
Bigger the vision, better it is.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they think small. It's very
Hmm.
important to think big, right?
Hmm.
Your scope, your horizon should be bigger.
Hmm.
That's very important. So you should
Hmm.
have a bigger vision.
Hmm.
That is. Second thing is, who is the founder or who are the co-founders
Hmm.
or who are the main leaders, and what is their mindset? What is their
Hmm.
attitude? Do they have the can-do attitude or not?
Hmm.
What of do they have the innovation mindset or not? Right?
Hmm.
Or very much attached to their product and they don't
Hmm.
have the flexibility to change, right?
Hmm.
That is the second thing.
Hmm.
And third, definitely the current, how it's doing currently, which
Hmm.
stage is it, just they are thinking about it, or
Hmm.
the product ready, is the MVP done, do you have the customers already, if
Hmm.
you have customers, where you are, how much money it's already making, how
Hmm.
much it's already making.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then when we talk about these things, you get a lot of idea when founders speak about these
Yeah.
things. You get an
Correct.
idea what they're thinking about, how they want to make it big.
Hmm.
If they don't have a passion to make it big, and if it's just to get some funding and
Hmm.
get,
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. But do you think that with outside money comes a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressures also? I've whatever we keep hearing on LinkedIn is that the moment you take outside money, it's like you are on a job. So is that the mindset, or how does it work?
see, definitely there would be some pressure. It depends on multiple factors, like whom you are taking investment from and what kind of persona that is, right?
Hmm.
Second is how much money you have taken, how
Hmm.
many stocks you have given up. That is
Hmm.
another, right?
Hmm.
So, and how much control you have. And third thing is what is your own attitude, as I said,
Hmm.
right? If you are feeling intimidated, no one can help. So I
Correct.
have seen people who just give 10% of their share and then they feel intimidated. I have seen people who give 40% of the shares and still they don't feel intimidated.
Hmm.
So you have to strategize first of all that how many shares you are giving, right?
Hmm.
If you are giving anything more than 10%, in
Hmm.
general, you're intimidated. And especially in India, our nature is that okay, very soon we come into a zone. Oh, उसने मेरे को help किया है तो अब उसका phone हमेशा उठाना है, right? I have to
Hmm.
pick the phone always. I have
Right.
to respond always. I have to obey the orders,
Hmm.
right? Follow the instructions because this person has given me this much money, right?
Correct.
So I think that's more about the mindset. So
Hmm. Hmm.
definitely strategize how many shares you are okay to give up.
Hmm.
That will help you a lot to have the confidence.
Hmm.
If you are having 90% of the shares, right, you'll have the confidence, right?
Right.
Second is if you have 90%,
Hmm.
is it only with one founder or is it across different founders? That is another thing, right? If you
Correct.
have invested your 90% shares in five people, again, you'll be intimidated, right?
Correct.
Because as one person, you'll
Hmm.
have 10, 15%, 20%,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So, and the same you have already given up to one of the
Hmm.
investors.
Hmm.
Investor can actually, break down your unity tomorrow, buy
Hmm.
their shares, and then again trying to get a hold on you, right?
Right.
So it's very important to strategize that how many shares you want to give up, and the remaining, who will own all
Hmm.
those shares, at least on paper. On
Hmm.
paper, you will hold, right? That's
Hmm.
very important. Second is your own mindset. You have to stay strong. If you're
Hmm.
in the business, you have to stay strong, right?
Correct.
You can't feel intimidated very easily. You have to
Absolutely.
stand for your business. It's your vision, it's your idea, it's your dream.
Correct.
You have to take a stand for that, right?
Correct. Correct. And I think, like you said, you need to have a big vision. That also means you'll have to probably work longer and harder and go the distance and not just feel that I will get rich quick and then get out in a year, 2 years. Most of the people have that mindset that let me raise a fund, then I'll sell it to someone, or just just go. That doesn't work. Probably you need to have 10 year, 15 years kind of vision to be able to make it a successful
Yeah.
venture for everyone.
Yeah. And that mindset is very much visible. People who are investors, right? They're not fools. They're very
Yeah.
smart. They'll get to know what is your vision, how
Correct.
much time you want to put into that, right? And then when it comes to an investor, if anyone who is a founder or anyone who is looking for funding,
Mm.
first thing they should think about is that okay, why you want investment? Is it
Mm.
only you want, or do you also want mentorship from that person?
Mm.
You
Mm.
want guidance from that person, right? So always try to build a relationship which is more collaborative, which is more
Mm.
with your investors, so that
Right.
you see someone is giving you money. It's very clear that that person has more money than you.
Mm.
If that having more money than you, most probably that person will have more experience than you.
Correct.
That person more experience, leverage that experience. Don't just look after money. I
Yeah.
think experience matters a lot.
Yeah.
Someone who is a CEO in a company or CTO in a company, that person might be earning. Imagine how much that person might be earning.
Correct.
How much their 1 hour or half an hour or 10 minutes value.
Correct.
Okay? So leverage that.
That. Yeah.
You can get 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs funding from them, and for them it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
For their 5 minutes, 10 minutes matter, but they will give you that 5 minutes, 10 minutes or guidance or anything when you will invest in that relationship, and it's on
Right.
them. They have a lot of other things to do, right?
Correct.
It's
Correct.
to invest your time to build that
Mm.
relationship so that
Mm.
the other person will feel interested to talking to you.
I think uh, beautiful point here. Networking or building relationships is actually far more valuable than just the money's part of it, because that probably that amount will expire in a few months. But the kind of relationship, the kind of bonding that you build with someone, or the years of experiences, these guys also in turn would have built 1,000 crore, 10,000 crore, 20,000 crore businesses. The wisdom that comes and probably helps a starter would be far larger than just the money part of it.
Yeah.
But boy, everyone is just focused on some numbers that, let me achieve this and then that it'll solve all the problems. But amazing point. Okay, so moving to the last segment of our conversation, which is around fitness. But in this, I will only want to speak with you around mental health and managing stress at workplace. You have worked with some amazing Fortune 500 organizations, Fortune 100 organizations. So help us understand with your uh, career and leadership positions, how have you managed stress in your career, and what kind of advice would you like to give to youngsters today who are feeling the stress in workplace and a lot of incidences are happening? Any tips and tricks, any practices that they can follow to be able to manage stress better while enjoying their work as well?
Okay, I'll share three things.
Yeah.
First is you have to understand, are you really loving what you are doing, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So some people by default love their job.
Hmm.
If you're not loving it, so you may have an option to try something new, but
Hmm.
sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes
Hmm.
that's not the right thing to do also.
Hmm.
I mean, if I'm saying that, okay, I love singing, but I'm not a good singer,
Hmm.
I know I won't make that much money there, right?
Correct.
And it would be difficult also, right?
Hmm.
And maybe it's not the right job for me. So
Yeah.
and let's say I don't love software engineering, for example, right? So either you can try something which you love,
Yeah.
or if that is not the right thing, then do everything to love your job.
Hmm.
That's first thing. Because when you love your job, there are high chances that you won't have stress. Doesn't matter how much work you are having. Doesn't matter how much you may, others may feel that you are compromising your work life
Hmm.
balance, but still be happy.
Hmm.
Definitely you might be sacrificing on few things. Maybe you will
Hmm.
be sacrificing on some fun.
Hmm.
Maybe you sacrifice some of your family time, but still you would be happy and you won't be under stress. So that is very important. First thing, to figure out what you love, either do that or ensure that whatever you are doing, love that. Figure out a way how you love that, but you have to do that. So people talk, I know a lot of people who talk about growth. They want fast, a lot of people reach me, on LinkedIn for mentorship. They want fast track growth, but you they don't understand it takes a lot of hard work, right? It takes a lot of smart work. So unless you love your job, you can't do that, because otherwise you'll be in that zone that, okay, I just want to work 6 7 hours and I just need my salary at end of the month. I'm getting my salary, I'm happy. But then how you'll grow with that mindset, right? You have to love your job, then you'll think big. You'll think about, okay, even if you're getting a small project, you'll think about how I can make it bigger. You'll think about how I can make it better. You won't think that, okay, this is PM's job. This is my product manager will tell me, then only I'll do. This is my engineering manager will tell me, then only I'll do, right? You still do that, even though, it's not your job. You'll go beyond and you'll figure out how you can innovate there and how you can make it big. So that is first thing. If you love your job, half of the problem is solved. Second thing is, I personally believe in spend a lot of time with your family. That is a very natural stress buster, very natural stress buster. And I've seen a lot of people. First thing it comes to their mind when they have more work is that, okay, इतना पैसा कमाने का फायदा ही क्या है अगर family के लिए time नहीं है, right? So you have to put a conscious effort, because that will be your first regret if anything goes wrong. Your first regret will be, I didn't spend enough time with my family, right? So spend a lot of time with them so that you don't have that regret tomorrow. And by default, when you start doing that, you'll realize it's a very natural stress buster. You spend 1 hour with your family, and you realize whatever stress you had 1 hour before, that's gone, right? So spend a lot of time with your family. And I do that consciously. I spend time in morning, in evening, night, that okay, I have to spend time with my people, right? That is second thing. And third thing which worked for me always is the gratitude. uh, you have to be, grateful. You have to be thankful wherever you are, whatever you do, right? I can complain that okay, I didn't get good schooling. I can complain my parents. I mean, maybe the finances, if it would have been better, I would have been doing better in my life, right? I can have all that complaint in my life, right? Or the kind of area I was there, I was not allowed to step out of my home, right? Other than school, so go to school and then come back from school. No playing in streets, no playing on the roofs of the home, nothing, right? So I can complain about all that. That okay, if I would have played with the kids, maybe I would have better soft skills or better emotional intelligence, right? I can complain about all that. But then to me, it looks like it's very important to look at the positive side. That okay, despite everything uh, which was not there, still what else you had, right? You got a lot of things better in your life. You got great parents who invested in you, who guided you, who trusted you, right? You got good siblings, you got a nice spouse, you got a nice baby. Everything is nice in your family, right? You have your hands which are working, you have feet, you can, walk yourself. There are a lot of things to be thankful about, be grateful about. To me, it works a lot when I start my day with journaling, and it's all about thanking whatever I have. Thank for that, be grateful. And the whole day there will be things you'll be upset about, but then very easily you'll come back to the gratitude zone again. That okay, it's a small thing. I still have other 99 things which are good in my life, right? So I think gratitude helps a lot.
Wow. I think this has been one of the most rewarding conversations I've had. Uh, we've come to the end of our discussion. Any parting thoughts, any conclusive thoughts you would like to leave with the audience around fitness, finance, future, or generally anything in life that you would like to share with the audience?
I think one thing which I would share, because your podcast is about finance, future, and the fitness, right? It's very important to understand how these three things align. A lot of people focus on fitness in their life. A lot of people focus on finances. Generally, the pattern I see is when you are early in your career, you focus on finances.
Yeah.
Then you realize when something hits, right? Someone has a heart attack, someone has some bone issues, slip disc. Then they realize, oh, health is very important. Then they'll
Mm.
hit switch and they'll focus on their fitness.
Fitness. Yeah.
But you have to understand one thing: you have to balance.
Yeah.
So your future depends on both your finances and fitness.
Mm.
आपके पास finances नहीं है तो it won't work out, right?
Mm.
You have to have finances, right? You have to
Absolutely.
take your kid to a nice school. If you look about, if you look at good schools, right?
Yeah.
uh, Easily you'll be spending somewhere around 12 lakhs in a year, right?
Yeah.
1 lakh per month is a very common thing if your kid is going
Wow.
into good school, right? So you need money for that.
Mm.
Uh, Something happens wrong in your family, you need a lot of money for your hospitals, right? No
Correct.
one will come to help you, so you have to have finances. There's no other option for that.
Right.
When you come to fitness, again, there's no option for that. You have to maintain that. You have to take time out for that.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you. If walking works for you, some exercise work for you, pranayam works for you, yoga works for
Absolutely.
you, aerobics works for you. I do musical exercises, I
Mm.
put spiritual songs, some bhajans, and then I
Mm.
do that.
Mm.
That works out for me because that helps me indirectly for my mental health
Mm.
as well.
Mm.
But whatever works for you, do that.
Correct.
There's no option there, there's no alternative there, right? And
Mm.
understand now, because there's no alternative to both of them, your finances and your fitness. Now you have to be very smart in, balancing these two things, because your
Mm.
future is dependent on both of this, right? If
Mm.
your fitness is good and if your finances are good, that will define your future, your kids'
Yes.
future, everything, right? So you have to
Absolutely.
balance it now. So if you see, um, I always give that example to my mentees. You see that the juggler who has
Mm.
5 balls in his hand. So at any point of time, he has 2 hands only,
Yeah.
and if he has 5 balls, he just ensures that okay, none of the ball is getting dropped. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that he's holding 5 balls. He's only
Correct.
only 2 balls, right? So that's how he tries to maintain the balance. That same thing you have to do. You have to maintain
Mm.
your finances and fitness. Maybe there would be a time in your career you maybe have to slow down a bit, and that may impact your finances because you are focusing more on fitness, or vice
Right.
versa. You are
Right.
working on finances, it's your promo time, 2 months you have to work, or whatever, right? It may impact a little bit on your fitness, but then try to balance with maybe food. If you're not getting time for gym, maybe eat less during that time, right?
Correct.
Or more healthy, or
Yeah.
maybe fasting, whatever works out for you, because you
Absolutely.
have 24 hours in your life, right? 8 hours you have to sleep, then you
Yeah.
get 16 hours only. You have to manage everything, right?
Correct.
And if you want to grow faster, you want to have a lot of money, you want to grow the ladder, right?
Mm.
So if you want to do all that, you have to be a master of balancing out things,
Correct.
and your future is dependent on these two things only. I love the topic of your podcast. It's very important to balance your fitness and finance,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You've been so generous with your time, your thoughts, your philosophies, Isha. It's been truly an honor to hear these thoughts out. I hope that at least a few people will derive value out of it, what we were trying to achieve here. Thank you so much once again for doing this.
No, actually, it's my honor, Nishan. Thank you for inviting me on this podcast. I was seeing who all you have invited earlier, like people like who went to Everest, people who have done a lot of good things in their life, right? In terms
Yeah.
of health things, right? Fitness. So I think it's an honor for me to be here on this podcast. Thank you so much for invitation.
Thank you so much. A truly humble giant, I would say, a leader, I think, must follow. I will put all your social media links in the show notes. Thanks again for taking out time for the audience.
Thank you, Nishan. Nice talking to you. Bye bye.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you.